Good morning. All right, that's better. How about them heels, huh? What? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, they pulled it out. Let's see what they can do. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Matthew McLam. You don't have to adjust your eyesight. Tim has not gotten shorter and lost hair. This is somebody different. So Tim has shepherded this conference for many years and done an excellent job. But I'm happy to be now the conference chair and your state geographic information officer. And I'm glad that each of you are here with us today. Today, over 500 of you, actually closer to 600 as of last night, have decided to come here and be together and to work alongside your colleagues this week and network and learn and share. And that's great. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the energy that you bring into the room. In talking to people this morning, many of them commented about the energy that was felt. I got here around 7:30 and it was a little more dead and quiet, not so many people here. But as everyone started rolling in, you could definitely feel the energy and the excitement in the air. So thank you for that, and I appreciate all that you do. You're part of the 19th Biennial NCGIS Conference, and obviously this conference is held every 2 years. Each of you have a role in making the conference what it is today, whether you've been coming for many, many years or maybe this is your first time. And with that said, if this is your first time, would you just slip up your hand if this is your first NCGIS conference? That's great. Yeah, we have a lot of in the room, yes. With that said, if you've been coming for many years, you saw maybe someone near you that raised their hand, please just take a moment, maybe after this session or later today or over the next couple of days, and just grab that person and talk to them and welcome them to the conference and maybe even welcome them to the GIS community here in North Carolina. We know that the GIS community here in North Carolina is strong and it's something special, and that's something to take great pride in. And again, that's because of each of you. So please take time and bring those new people in, spend some time with them, show them the ropes, because there's a lot of content over the next couple of days, and I'll talk a bit more about that here in a moment. With that said, we are going to have a few speakers come up today. We are going to start off with hearing from Tina Piccioni. She is the secretary for NCDIT as well as the state chief information officer. As secretary and state chief information officer, she leads the agency that's responsible for strategic IT planning and the procurement and delivery of IT services and solutions, as well as cybersecurity and efforts to expand broadband access and affordability across North Carolina. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Secretary Piccioni to the stage at her first NCGIS conference.
Hello, everybody. I want to see if I can do a bit better with y'all. Good morning.
Good morning.
You just have to ask them nicely. Well, thank you, Matt, for that incredible introduction. On behalf of Governor Stein and the North Carolina Department of Information Technology, by the way, try to say that fast a few times, and congratulations on your new role as our State Geographic Information Officer. We are very lucky to have you and thrilled that you kicked off the conference for us this morning. I'd also want to thank Hope Morgan for being here. Can you turn around and give everybody a wave? She is the GICC chair. Thank you. And also acknowledge Tim Johnson, the former state GIO. Is Tim here? Oh, there he is. I saw him earlier, who's with us. Thank you, Tim, for serving the state for 35 years. What an incredible legacy that you have that we look forward to still having you a part of. So thank you. And wow, look at the turnout. Everybody look to your left and right. This is going to be an amazing time. There's hardly any seats left, but just as my dad would say in the church, there's always seats up front. So in case y'all are lacking, come on up. There is plenty. And a huge shout out. An event like this takes time and effort. And you have it every 2 years for a reason. You know how long it takes to put this together? It takes time. So a big shout out to everybody who put time, who put effort, who lost sleep, who got here early, who stayed late for doing it. So thank you for them, because again, it takes a while to get it done. So everybody give them a round of applause. So thank you again for being here. There is such strong engagement and collaboration, and it's no surprise that North Carolina is the national leader in GIS. Because of that, North Carolina is actually safer and stronger because of you. If you think about it, we have long invested in the technology, which puts us in a better position to respond to possibly any disasters, as we experienced last year. In history, no one could have fathomed Hurricane Helene. If you can imagine, we have 6 inches of snow on the beach and a hurricane in the mountains. It has been a unique season. And what you have done and the tools that have been built has been instrumental in guiding the light that people saw as hope. If you think about all of the extensive programming that was done to be able to track and identify potential areas of rainfall, of flooding, of landslides, and help first responders prioritize needs of assistance, it was due to the effort and collaboration from this group. Prior to Helene, experts were able to say, and working with emergency management, this is where we think it's going to hit with the amount of rainfall. This is where we have 100 and 500-year events. This is where we are mapping and looking to see what it looks like. This is how it allowed areas from highest risk of flooding and landslides to proactively be able to position search efforts and rescue teams to be able to locate victims and survivors that we were able to then identify quickly. Imagine bridges and roads are washed out. Think about the topography. You had a waterway that went one way, that when Helene went through, it turned it to the other side of the road. No one expected it, and you were there to help map it because no one knew what had happened. Communication was not only difficult, in times it was impossible. The positive note with so much devastation is that flawlessly 911 was able to reroute, thanks in part to everything you were doing with the predictions, to helping us reroute and stay on top of the emergency. The next-gen 911 system relies on GPS and advanced location tracking to use that precision and accuracy in knowing what to do. Because of this system, not one single person who called 911 was dropped, and they were able to be connected to an operator. Every single call went through and was answered, and there was 50,000 additional calls in that weekend alone. Imagine the impact this team had. In a crisis like this, it's reliability that's the difference between life and death. GIS technology also allowed the NCGIS to create publicly accessible dashboards showing real-time road closures and monitoring ongoing efforts for reopening. The life-saving tool for residents and first responders to navigate roads safely when they were flooded and blocked out was nothing short of miraculous by the teams in this room. While support from our state GIS experts, staff at the U.S. Geological Survey created landslide observations and dashboards triggered by hurricane in real time to again help with the protection for the responders and the publics. Even now, 6 months after the storm, GIS is still playing the pivotal role in the recovery efforts. They're still assessing infrastructure damage, analyzing long-term impacts, and helping plan for the future, because we just don't know what's coming next. Data collected now is going to be utilized from not only now, but for the future and years to come. Since I've come on board as NCGIS Secretary, I've had multiple opportunities to travel to Western North Carolina and see the devastation for myself. It's not only truly heartbreaking, it's hard to fathom the amount of rain that came in the dark of night and the lifelines that was needed. So I want to again thank your dedication, hard work, and innovation that helped to minimize the actual damage on the afterwards from Helene. It is because of people like you that made the real difference that we were able to see. Helene became the powerful example in what can happen and what needs to happen. Wow, it looks like my building. It goes on and off. With tools like these and with incredible collaboration that we see here today, I want to continue to let you know that we can have a safer, stronger, and more resilient North Carolina because of you. As the efforts not only come across, it's the efforts that we are utilizing to be able to be used in broadband and in households to connect to the internet. It's about ensuring every North Carolinian has access to healthcare, education, economic growth, and other opportunities in this digitally connected world as it continues to connect. The tools are not a luxury, but now a dictated necessity. One thing, as I attended the broadband town hall in Franklin, North Carolina last week, I saw incredibly how your efforts and the broadband team's efforts making access to tools are making a difference in everyday lives that they have. To help people succeed, we must have an actual, accurate picture of what the topography looks like, where every house is, every road is, and every stream that at that point became a river is. The partnership between CGIA and the Division of Broadband and Digital Opportunity has been instrumental in helping to be able to precisely view the underserved and underserved locations across our state. The mapping effort helped surface an additional 115 places that we didn't even know about. Can you imagine? We were blind to our own data, but because of your efforts now, we can actually illuminate where those places are and be able to look and see where we can make a difference. Adding these locations ultimately helped our state receive federal funding for broadband that we would have been sorely lacking. Ongoing work to streamline update mapping for broadband grants and associated data continues to be a challenge, but with this team, I know that it's possible and they are going to make an incredible difference. Supported by mapping data, over $515 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds have been awarded since 2022 to connect an additional 190,000 homes and businesses in North Carolina alone due to your efforts. So a big shout out and a thanks to CGIA, the Division of Broadband, Division of Opportunity, as this has made a difference. Angie Bailey is also here in our audience, Director of Broadband Infrastructure, and she and her team continually are working on these efforts to ensure that every home and business is connected. To that end, Angie, if you're here, I wanted to be able to give a shout out and wave to you, maybe. Back in the very back, see, it's like I said at church, they find their way to the back. She is in the back and would love for her to connect with you at some point to be able to talk about her efforts as she's doing it. This is the one part of my conversation that I'm most excited about. That's where we're actually going to name an award right here, right now, of $1.2 million for Haywood County, to where Skyrunner is taking that up to give an additional 30% of that county access to broadband. Can you imagine not being able to connect with Wi-Fi, using your phones, getting connected for doctor's visits, homework, being able to look at people and say, hey, mom and dad across the world, I actually can see you. This is the difference that this team is making and the difference that each of you are making in the lives of every North Carolinian. So never think that your work isn't having a dramatic impact across this state, because not only is it, but it is an evidence of every home and business that is being served by broadband, because you were able to illuminate the connection and the light for them to be able to do it. In closing, I want to thank CGIA, Division of Broadband, Digital Opportunity, and every single person at this conference. For this conference, you have the unique ability to be significant. You have the ability to make connections that then can be collaboration points to make a difference to every North Carolinian across our state, and we want to thank you. I want you to enjoy your time here. Winston-Salem is a special place for me, and I absolutely love it. And in case you haven't eaten or gone for coffee here, happy to give recommendations. because it is an extraordinary place for you to be. The weather is gorgeous. Please get out, go for a walk. Find a partner to go with that you can collaborate with as you go. Map your way, and then utilize that later in the tools you have. So for that, in closing, I want to say thank you again. Enjoy the conference, have an absolute blast, and continue the connections. Thanks again.
Thank you, Secretary. It certainly is an exciting time to be a part of the NCGIS community. We are grateful for the support of NCDIT, as well as the contributions by everyone here today. Next, I am pleased to ask Hope Morgan, who was just acknowledged a few moments ago, Chair of the GICC, to join me on stage. Hope was appointed as Chair of the GICC, the Geographic Information Coordinating Council, in December of 2021, and has added tremendous energy and a fresh perspective to the Council's work that many of you in the room contribute to. So, Hope.
Awesome, thank you. Oh my goodness. I heard somebody actually say when I came in, GIS people are happy. I love it. We are happy. We are happy to be together. We are happy to see each other. I have been so honored and blessed to be a part of this community and the work that we're doing. I want to take a flashback to when we saw each other 2 years ago. We had just been allowed to all be in the same building together. We had learned a whole new world, how to deal with that world, sometimes a little too much. I'm about sick of some Zoom calls. But it is amazing that we're able to share and see information. And I want to tell you right now that the LGC, because of those video conferencing calls, has now more than 100 people that show up almost every meeting. So the ability to coordinate, the ability to work together has just been fantastic. So here we are again at a time of great change. Whatever happens is going to be change. It's going to be change that we have to figure out how to work with. And guess what? That GIS data that we've been working so hard for, that all of us have been coordinating with, is going to drive that change. We are making spatial decisions to make the world a better place and to work together to do that. So I want to take a second and say, if you are on the GICC, will you stand up, please? Our GICC members, I know we have several that are here. Thank you. Thank you. This group of people meets 4 times a year, which, by the way, you're welcome to join us. And we are meeting on Friday in this building to actually have our board meeting so that anyone that is a part of this conference can see the work that we do. And all of those wonderful things that the Secretary mentioned of all the works that you've been doing, the reason that those are so important is because you're not doing them alone. You're making great strides in your area in coordination and in contact with all of the other people that not only can help you validate the work, but can help you actually know what's needed in other locations, that can broaden the goals and the work that we do, and that can use that data for way more than one person could use it for. So I am just exceptionally grateful that I know that we have all of those things that we can put together. I want you to know that the GIS community, especially in North Carolina, is a force to be reckoned with. When you come in this room, we know what's going on. We know what data is available. We know what you can do with that data. We know the power of the data. We know how to make it broaden everything that we do every single day. And that is something that is spectacular, that you don't see everywhere. So I am just amazed at what work we can do. So Steve Jobs actually said, the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do. So this is about change, whatever that change may be. It's about not being afraid of change. It's about facing that change with data and understanding what we can do with that data. So my question to you is, how crazy are you? Actually, it's how crazy are we collectively? We are unicorns. We are the ones with the ability to actually see what can be done and to use it with other people to make things great. So welcome to the GIS chaos. And welcome to the controlled herd cats that we do every single day. And I am amazed to have this opportunity. And I have one more quote, and that is, if we did everything that we were possible to do, we would absolutely astound ourselves. So, astound yourself. Be fantastic. That was Thomas Edison, by the way. Astound yourself and do great things, because I know you can, and I know you will, and I'm looking forward to see what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. I appreciate it. You said 5 minutes, and you were right on, so thank you. That's great. Now I'd like to share a little bit about the conference, some details. So those of you that have been before, some things may be a little bit different. Some things are staying the same. So with that said, first of all, I would like to acknowledge Geospatial Professional Network. And if you're like, Matt, who is that? It was formerly Carolina ERISA. So ERISA changed their name, so it's now the Geospatial Professional Network, Carolina. I'd like to acknowledge the support of them throughout the conference. The chapter's been a partner for many years and just completed pre-conference workshops yesterday. So who in the room attended a pre-conference workshop yesterday? Yep, several hands going up. So they had a great attendance yesterday. There were over 50 registrants for the workshops, and that's great, so glad to see that. I'd also like to thank Richard Tunstra for all of his support on behalf of GPN Carolina over the past several months and for serving on the executive committee for the conference. It's been great working with you, Richard. I know I saw you in here earlier. Why don't you raise your hand right in front of me? Great, awesome, thanks, Richard. So yes, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you over the past several months. At this time, I'd like to also extend a thank you to our exhibitors. So we have 34 exhibitors that are joining us this week. All of them enrich our conference by their presence and by sharing of products and services that we may not be aware of. So take some time to go and see what's new. I encourage you to visit their booths. I would like to specifically recognize our platinum and gold exhibitors. Platinum exhibitors in alphabetical order are Avinion, Duncan Parnell, Esri, Geodecisions, New Light Technologies, SAM, the Sanborn Map Company, and Timmons Group. And our gold exhibitors, again in alphabetical order, Allen Build Instruments, BCS, EagleView, Open Data Soft, Rock Technologies, and Surdex. With that said, I'd also like to recognize our AM sponsor for Thursday. This was something new that we offered this year. It had been done in years past. It's kind of new. We did offer the opportunity for sponsorships, and we appreciate Sam sponsoring the AM break for tomorrow morning. So thank you, Sam. At this time, I'll give a little bit of history about the conference. Again, nearly 600 of you are in attendance this week. We have representation from all across the state, literally from the coast to the mountains. Of course, we have to have a map to show this. So here's a heat map to kind of show that distribution. We are following a similar format this year as we did in 2023, in that we are offering 7 concurrent sessions. That's a lot. There's a lot of great content. It's going to be hard to choose where you want to go and what sessions you want to partake in. But we do encourage you to check out what's available. There are TVs throughout the hallway where you can view the agenda. You also have the app. I'll include a QR code in a moment to actually allow you to get into the app and see those sessions so you can actually see what's available. When you registered this morning, you should have received a crossbody bag. Who has those? Wave them in the air. Yeah, everybody should have gotten one. If you didn't, make sure you make your way back down to the desk. If you haven't opened it yet, there are a couple of additional items inside of there. If you happen to fly in, maybe you're an exhibitor and you flew in or someone else, I encourage you to definitely check it because there's a knife inside of it. You'll be greeted by TSA with a surprise if you don't and you try to take it on the plane. So it's said, it's recorded, I've made you aware. So Some highlights for the conference. Today, immediately following this session, we will have a buffet lunch that is available. You probably saw those tables already lined up in the hall, ready to hold that food for us. You will make your way through those lines, and you will have the opportunity to go into the exhibit hall where there are tables and seats and eat your lunch in there. There will also be a patio that's open across the hall should you want to go outside and eat as well. So take the time to do that today. This afternoon, starting at 5 p.m., we have the social and poster session. So I encourage you to please take part in that. I'll talk a bit more about the poster session in a moment, but it's a great time for networking and meeting colleagues, again, those new people, and having that collaboration that the secretary mentioned, and really making some connections and forming some bonds that honestly can last for a lifetime. So I encourage you to be here at 5 p.m. this evening for the social. On Thursday, we have coffee with the council. I'll talk about that here in a moment. We also have the awards lunch tomorrow. We're really excited about the awards lunch. We always are. It's a great time to come together. That will be an opportunity for us to recognize local governments who have shown innovative use of GIS, and also recognize 18 students from 10 colleges and universities across the state for their exemplary use of GIS and within their programs, whether it be undergraduate or graduate. So we're really excited to have more students that are going to be recognized this year than in 23, and we look forward to that tomorrow during the lunch. On Friday, we mentioned, or Hope mentioned, that the Geographic Information Coordinating Council, or the GICC, will be holding its quarterly meeting here at the conference. It will take place right here in this room. Tables and chairs will be reconfigured for the council members to attend. Please stick around and attend that. It's great for you to see what the council's made up, what it looks like, and you'll have an opportunity to hear from the different committees as well and hear from their chairs of what each of those committees are doing. It's a great way, again, to get plugged in, and those meetings are virtual once and in person for some of those once we depart from here, so you have the opportunity to plug back into those as the year continues. Okay. And the GICC was mentioned, and then Coffee with the Council. Coffee with the Council, Hope, that was a great coined that term. We'll have to make sure we save that for 27. It's a opportunity for you to come and just chat in an informal way with someone that's a GICC member or a committee chair. It'll be tomorrow during those three opportunities, during the breakfast, the morning break, and the afternoon break. We'll have some tables set up in the hallway with signs. Just come, chat, learn more about it. You might say, what in the world is the GICC? What do you do? How can I get involved as a local government employee? Or how can I get involved from academia or state government? Please stop by and chat with someone. It'd be a great opportunity to do that. Okay, let me go back one. Talk about the program. I appreciate, I'm going to recognize the executive committee tomorrow during the luncheon, but Jeff Essick has done a great job with the program and getting things together and spearheading that process. Jeff, I'm sure you're in the room. Can you raise your hand? Right there. All right, Jeff's towards the back in the middle. So thank you so much, Jeff, for all that work and coordinating with all the speakers. We have over 120 individual presentations over the next 2.5 days. Making that up with the panel speakers, that means we have over 180 people that have committed their time to come and actually present. So please look at that agenda, identify where you want to go, and learn from these people. And if you're speaking, thank you for taking the time to do that. Top 5 things to know about the program, or just a few things that I want to hit on. We are excited to bring back the vendor track and student track that we had in 2023. So it's an opportunity to allow vendors to have a time to speak and to showcase things that they would like to show. So we do have that on the agenda. And also we have presentations from our student award winners. So each of the students that are being recognized tomorrow, they will be presenting over the next couple of days. So please look up those and go and support our students as well. There's a range of panels on the agenda. Starting this afternoon, we have our panel related to Hurricane Helene from a more technical perspective than what we're going to hear this morning. Also, the LGC, so the Local Government Committee, the State Government GIS Users Committee, and also there's a panel on municipal boundaries and annexation history. So please take a time to do that. Also want to mention that we are excited to have representation at the conference from the National 4-H Geospatial team. They're here with us this year. So if you're in the room, can you also raise your hand? There's a lot of raising the hands today. Are you in the room from the over here? Awesome. Thank you all so much for coming. Brandon reached out to us towards the end of last year about the opportunity to come and be a part of the conference, and we said, yes, please do, please come, and we'd also love for you to speak. So they do have a presentation titled A Case Study in Youth Research Through GIS that they'll be giving, and we're really excited to hear that, and we thank you for being here and being a part of the NCGIS conference this year. All right, technology. If you have not downloaded the app yet, please do so. It's the CVent app. Everybody's quick to pull out your phone and scan the QR code. I hope you trust me that this isn't some virus, but with cybersecurity concerns, right, Secretary? But yes, it is safe. I tested it myself on my personal phone, not my work phone. You're welcome. You're welcome. So please scan the QR code. There are some other QR codes around and in the hall if you don't get a chance to scan it now. So please take the time to download the app. That's your gateway into the conference. It shows all the sessions, speaker information, everything that's going on over the next 2.5 days. So please take the time to do that. When you bring it up, you can enter NCGIS conference, spaces between NC and GIS, and then between conference, or GIS and conference. So take the time to do that and connect in the app as well. We are also, as in previous years, we are recording every session. So every session will be available on the NCGIS Conference YouTube page. So please, if I know you will not physically be able to attend all 120 sessions, so this is a great opportunity to go back and listen to sessions so you can review them later, and maybe there was a session you attended and you want to get more information to hear something again. Those will all be made available within the coming weeks following the conference. And we appreciate the support of our AV company, for Sonos, for helping us with that as well. Okay. As I mentioned, the exhibit hall will be the hub for lunch today. Some of those tables that you see in there, it may be kind of cramped if you're thinking about getting around during the socials. A lot of those tables are going to be moved out to allow us to have a little more free-flowing room in there after the lunch today, so don't fret. But we do want to be in there and be able to spend time with our exhibitors, and we appreciate them welcoming us into the space as well. Tomorrow, the awards luncheon will be across the way in the gallery ballroom. You access that area by going down the escalators. Then there's a tunnel, and you'll hang a right. We'll have signs, we'll have staff, we'll make sure we get you there. There won't be any issue there. Just wanted you to know it's not going to be in this usual place, that it will be in a different room for that. CMC and Associates is our event management company, and they've done an excellent job working with the Benton Convention Center staff to help deliver the conference. They are the ones that were manning the registration table this morning, along with Diane Enright. So we appreciate their support and them being here. They've been great to work with to deliver this conference. Poster session. Eddie, I know you're in the room as well. Where are you at, Eddie? Maybe I can't. Okay. All right, I'll wave the hand for Eddie. So Eddie Shipman with DOT, NCDOT has been great in helping spearhead and shepherd the poster session. Thank you to everyone that has submitted posters. We have a total of 38 posters this year, so that's great. A great turnout and support there. So please take time. They're in the exhibit hall. They'll be set up, and they're being set up now. So please take some time to go and check out the posters. Starting at 5 p.m., there will be a link in the app that you can go to and vote for your favorite posters. First, second, and third place will win a cash prize or a check prize from GPN Carolina, so we appreciate their support there. And so please do take some time, go and support your colleagues, look at their posters that they've put together, and vote for which one you like. And the voting will close tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So you have until 5 p.m. tonight, until 9 a.m. tomorrow, and we will announce winners tomorrow during the luncheon. Okay, certifications. So GIS certification points are earned as part of the conference. We also have American Planning Association has identified AICP certified presentations that are part of the program that you can receive credits for those. So please, if you see the agenda, there's an outline around those of which ones support that. And then also you receive continuing education credits for NC Property Mappers Association as well. So we appreciate all these organizations. So please make sure you capture, if you're moderating, speaking, or attending, that you capture that. And we will also be providing certificates to you to document that you were here and participated. Okay. With that said, at this time, I would like to ask our keynote panelists to please make their way to the stage. And we will be hearing from our keynote panelists regarding the use of GIS before, during, and after Hurricane Helene. On Friday, September 27, 2024, Hurricane Helene forever changed the landscape of western North Carolina. Its impact in western North Carolina has been categorized as the deadliest NC hurricane in modern North Carolina history and resulted in more than $59.6 billion with a B in damages. Today, we're going to hear the viewpoint from 4 of our colleagues in the NCGIS community of how GIS was used before, during, and after Hurricane Helene. I'm going to introduce each of our panelists now and read a short bio so that once I do that, they can come up and speak without interruption, and they'll have the opportunity to share their stories. First, we have Eric Wilson. Eric is the GIS manager for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. He's been engaged in the field of GIS for nearly 30 years, serving in a variety of capacities. His team of GIS and IT specialists serve the citizens of North Carolina by providing products such as GoNC, the NCDOT, Road Centerline Dataset, and various other GIS data layers and applications. We also have Greg Dobson. As part of the University of Asheville, Greg has been a research scientist with the National Environmental Modeling and Analysis Center, NEMAC, since June of 2006, serving first as the GIS coordinator before becoming the director of geospatial technology. He's responsible for all the GIS activities, research, mapping, and development at NEMAC. Greg stays active and supports his profession by serving on various local, state, and national boards and committees, and holds a BS in geography from East Tennessee State University and an MA in geography from Appalachian State University, both with concentrations in GIS. Sally Vaughn. Sally works for Person County Government, most recently as the GIS director. After graduating East Carolina University, she's worked in private GIS consulting as well as 15 years in local government. In 2023, Sally was the recipient of the G. Herb Stouts Award for Innovation in GIS and has played a crucial role on the Person County grant writing team, helping secure $2.63 million within a year. Her areas of expertise include solutions development, GIS enterprise management, and sharing spatial information with the public. And lastly, we have Kristen Watts. Kristen is the GIS manager for the city of Asheville, where her team also oversees asset management. She completed her master's in GIS at NC State University and still loves using GIS to innovate, problem solve, and serve her community. When she is not working, you can usually find Kristen in or near a river with her family. All right, thank you so much to our panelists. I'm going to turn it over to them now and turn it over to Eric. So, thank you.
There's a lot of you out there. Hey, how you doing? My name's Eric Wilson. Like Matt said, I am the GIS manager for NCDOT. I actually work for the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. We're an DOT is an optimized agency, so they get all their IT services through DIT. And so my team's about 60 people. They're great. They do a wide variety of things from architecture to analysis. We do data gathering, data creation, publishing geospatial services, the whole gamut. And we're large because DOT by itself is large. We manage the second largest number of roads outside of Texas. And so if you think about events like Hurricane Helene, a lot of the things that DOT faces are basically due to scale. And so when we are looking at an event like Hurricane Helene, there's a lot of things from the state perspective that I'm going to try to share today. And I'm just really humbled by the people that we got to work next to throughout the event as our role primarily in a lot of things like this is as a force multiplier to try to make things easier, to try to bring services as smoothly as we can to help the business do what it needs to do to get its job effectively, because they're the ones with the boots on the ground helping the citizens, and the last thing you need is for IT to be anything but a help. And so that was what we tried to do throughout the event. That's the perspective I'll share today. So you can kind of see some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on. Not super deep, but there's some other stuff that's in the course of the presentations over the next couple of days that if you see anything around Hurricane Helene and DOT, I encourage you to go to. So I'll share a little more about that as well. One of the groups that I wanted to highlight initially comes under the preparing section of an event. So normally when an event's coming, you kind of go through three things. You're kind of like in the preparation stage, then you go to two, you're in the event with all the scramble, and then you're in recovery. So I really wanted to highlight the DOT hydraulics unit. Kirk Golembeski and his team were already on site before we arrived. We were stationed to go to the State Transportation Operations Center, and so that's over off of Reedy Road, for those of you who don't know, it's in Raleigh. And we arrived there, and these guys were already on it. And just amazing, they're already working with the NWS to get rainfall amounts and things like this. They had predictions rolling. They knew what was coming. And using GIS just in an amazing way to just get out ahead of everything and nail down what the possible threats to life and limb would be. And Kurt has a presentation on Thursday at 4:15. I highly recommend you guys go to see that presentation just to see what GIS can do and what the awesome things that this group does for DOT. And they basically were able to identify situations like this that occurred and keep people away from it by working closely in concert with the people from the operations center to put people on site to keep people out of the harm's way. And so kudos to them, just GIS in action. It was really inspiring to see. And like I said, really humbling to stand alongside those people. Inside the event, my team, like I said, there's about 60 of us, and we were doing a wide variety of things. Initially, we were brought into the event to sit alongside and offer support for routing. We were not really tasked to do anything. We were there as an observer. And so when we arrived, we sat in the back. That's our picture of Raquel and I, smiles on our faces, sitting in the back, trying to see what was going on so we could kind of help with routing. And routing is important in an event for DOT, not to get people out. A lot of people who are in events, they think, oh my gosh, we got to get the people out. Well, the routing apps take care of that. And the road system is open when an event is approaching. And so the messaging that goes out from to the public to get out of Dodge, they will use the routing apps to get out. The big concern that DOT has is once the destruction happens, getting resources back in, keeping citizens away so that you're safe. All of that has to be done in a very organized manner. And so we were there as observers to help them improve that process. But very quickly, as you can see on the left side, Raquel ended up at the table. That's Raquel Benson, and she's my GIS Spatial Services Supervisor. She's excellent at what she does, one of the superstars of our team, and she had done a great job of just kind of embedding herself within that team throughout the whole process. And for those of you who have ever needed access to Go and See, which is our flagship product, she kind of stands in front of that. So I was really proud to work alongside of her. And throughout the event, our team was in and out of dealing with a variety of different things, but I'll show some examples of some of the stuff that was created by DOT that we helped them generate. Early on, there was no communication. I can't tell you something that brought the whole event to light more than anything was when Raquel and I sat down there Friday morning and no one knew what was going on. It was silent. There was no communications from the West. There was no cell phones, no Starlink, nothing. It was just dead silent. And so everybody was wondering, what's happening out there? And we had some communications that were coming by people who were driving out and then calling in to other people, and then they would relay that, and it kind of became really real. So part of the early work that was done by the traffic operations folks was to identify where cell towers needed to be placed. And so documents like this were generated and distributed. Also early on was the question through the communications office in DOT, how do we let people know where there are resources? So we had the request to generate a humanitarian map, which we had provided. But as the situation progressed, it became more and more important for people to understand what the damage was, what things were really starting to be assessed at, what was broken. And so imagery became a very big part of the operation. We started working very closely with emergency management and FEMA and the Civil Air Patrol, DOT photogrammetry, generating data that people could use to assess the situation. And so the imagery started to become really important to understand the scale of damage at a particular location. So that was one of the things that kind of ran in parallel with all the other stuff throughout the entire work. Another thing that a lot of people don't see is this map. This map is something that DOT personnel put together that allows folks who are working in the agencies that are doing the first response to navigate safely through the environment, but these are roads you wouldn't necessarily open to citizens. And so if you think about what you're looking at right there, the amount of roads that are open to DOT people to help, but those are not open to citizens, give you a scale of what actually was damaged early on. And so this map was actually something we're really proud of, because we had a group generating Google Maps data in the STOC on the DOT side, and then our team wrote an application on the fly to basically consume that data, process that data, and then push this map out that could be distributed as PDFs and also as digital PDFs that would go out, printed and digital. And so we had a team that kind of sat on that throughout the entire event for about 20 days to make sure that this map was constantly functioning and running, and just making sure that the product was up to snuff. We also had to combat some disinformation. This is a map that we have put out to basically show that there was indeed effective communication when it came to moving supplies around via helicopter. There was a lot of stuff early on that was said about how there wasn't a lot of planning that went into what went on in Western North Carolina, and yet there was. And so we were putting maps out to basically combat disinformation. So if you can imagine, here you're doing all this work to try to help the citizens, and then all of a sudden you're being distracted by that coming through social media. So some of those things were things that we had to kind of scramble on as we were moving through the event as well. One of the more shocking things that people see, and that kind of brings it to reality, is this is sort of a screenshot that depicts the damage assessments that we had to do for DOT. So this is only damage on DOT facilities that you're seeing here. This does not indicate damage to homes or anything else. And it's, once again, important to know that that's the perspective that I'm speaking from, is just from the DOT side. And so in a normal event that happens along the coast, you'll get maybe 300 to 400 damage occurrences. This is like for a Category 4 or 5 storm. So maybe some culvert washouts, some roads will subside, and things like that. But as the Secretary noted earlier, just the immense amount of rain that fell with the rain that had preceded this storm caused an immense amount of damage to occur in a very short period of time. And so we had to put the operations and program management team at DOT went out with about 1,000 people plus, and put this application out there for people to consume from an operational perspective, so people would use their phones to capture pictures of damage. And these are people who are trained to use the application. It's a Survey 123 application. And then that data comes back into the DOT. They review it and they approve it. And that information gathered here, after it's vetted, goes to FHWA and FEMA and allows the state to receive its reimbursements. So this is a very, very important set of data that gets generated as part of this. But just the sheer scale of what DOT owns causes this much data to start flowing through the system. There's over 100 gigabytes of image and photos, and it gets even more robust when you start talking about the cleanup documentation as well. And all that's done in ArcGIS Online. And so one of the things I'd also like to point out is that we were hand in hand with Esri and Sam Perkins. I don't know if Sam is here, but just a shout out to Sam and his team. Like, we had to basically lean on them a lot for upscaling our ArcGIS Online presence. We usually run it at M3 because we're a rather large organization, but because of the throughput, we went and talked to Esri about upping our subscription essentially to an M4 for the course of this event to handle viral loads. And so there was a lot of traffic that was being generated. Some of the things that we also had to do was help this traffic operations center push out information about what was an area that citizens should not travel in. So we called this effectively the pink polygon. And so this was generated on the first day. Once they started to get the people driving out and saying, oh my gosh, you can't let people travel out here, it's a horrible situation, the Traffic Operations Center decided, hey, we are going to put a block on people traveling towards the west. And so they basically drew a polygon, around the western part of the state. And that allowed people to receive a notification on their phone if they were traveling, but if they went to Drive NC, they could see that this polygon existed as well. And we were able to keep this in place over the course of the event. And we had a model that we had set up, and it was running in the background as we would get changes. Well, not in the background, but it was sort of like on demand. Like when we would get a change to that area that we had to push through, Raquel and her team had put this model together, and it would adjust that polygon over time. And so what you see is that polygon has shrunk a little bit over the course of the event, so that you could see that people could travel through the corridors of the pink area, but you didn't want them to travel off of those main lines out into the other areas of Western North Carolina, because there was still a risk to their safety if they were to get on roads that weren't suitable for travel. So a lot of those things were happening behind the scenes as well. And once we had pushed those things out, we started to get some statistics on how much they were consumed. That pink area alone was hit over 2.5 million times over the course of those 20 days. And then our services that we push out that a lot of you consume for road closures, they were really hit hard too. They were hit for about over 11 million times over the course of the time that we were tracking it for the event. So a lot of serious consumption, and so a lot of like scaling of services in the background. Our web systems team scaled the application that supports those road closures by about 25 times early in the storm in Azure, which was great. And then as the storm kind of tailed off, we were able to tail that back down. Similarly with Ezra Restart, we went from M4 to M3 towards the tail end of that period of time. So a lot of things were going on there as far as like coordination. We ended up coordinating with about 40 plus agencies over the course of the event, from federal, state, local. Can't thank enough the folks from the CGIA and the GICC. I was on the phone with Natalie with the LGC at one point asking for contacts of local people we could reach out to. Just the ability for people to just be aware and be willing to have the doors open for us when we needed help. Just as much as we were providing it, we were asking for help. We worked hand in hand with emergency management as well, and Gary and his team over there, and Dan. Just fantastic work as a group. And now we're in the recovery phase, and this is just a real quick slide just to show you that this is the one item that you probably see a lot. This is on Go and See. If you're interested, you could go there and see that. You can still see that there's 147 roads closed as of the 17th. So North Carolina hasn't really fully recovered from this event. If you've driven through there, you'll know the destruction is real, and it's unbelievably immense. And so having just a few roads closed in the system is shocking a lot of times, but still have 147 closed in this region is really just kind of mind-blowing from our perspective. So that's sort of the state look at how things kind of worked for us and some of the products that we produced and some of the things that we were actively engaged in. I'll pass it over to Greg, and we'll let y'all keep going. So.
Well, again, I'm Greg Dobson, Director of GIS and Engagement at UNC Asheville's NEMAC. Just a little bit about NEMAC before I get into the story that I want to tell. So we're an applied research center on campus at UNC Asheville. I've been there for about 18 years. We do a lot of work with converting complex scientific data, complex geospatial data, a lot of the data that we're talking about here in this room over the next couple of days, into useful decision support tools. And we work with a lot of different partners, whether it be local government, federal government, private sector, nonprofits, and work at a lot of different scales. I say all that because, a couple of our really close partners through the years has been the City of Asheville, Buncombe County, Land to Sky Council of Governments, and others in the Asheville area. Even though we work on a lot of projects all over the country, we have always maintained close ties with our partners right there in Asheville. A little more context too. So again, when I got there in 2006, Asheville was still recovering from the 2004 floods. Helene has pretty much erased our memory of 2004, but for the past 2 decades, everything that was discussed regarding flooding and landslides in western North Carolina was, kind of benchmarked off those 2004 flood events. We actually had back-to-back floods in September of 2004. Ironically, exactly 20 years to the month, prior to Helene. So that was kind of interesting. So in my first few years at NEMAC, spent a lot of time working with different members of the emergency management community, trying to understand products and tools that would be useful during major events such as these floods. So I knew kind of going into post-Helene that we were well suited to try and reach out and help. And then finally, too, I'll say that I no longer live in Asheville. I'm just down the mountain in upstate South Carolina, which meant I was not in survival mode following Hurricane Helene. We had a lot of damage. We were without power for a week, but I had a generator, I had power, I had my laptop going. We had reliable cell service, things they did not have in Asheville. We had water. So again, kind of more able to help than a lot of people in the Asheville GIS community were able to do so. So I just want to tell a little story then about this local support and a really unique collaboration that came together to provide a set of tools that the county and the city were able to use in the weeks and months and are still using them after Helene. A couple of days after the storm, I reached out to my friend, Kristen with the City of Asheville, Gene Hume, who's the GIS manager of Buncombe County. He's not here today. Said, hey, what can NEMAC do to help you guys? And so some of the initial requests were just trying to get a handle on imagery. One of the key data sets that we need after a major event like this is high-resolution post-event imagery so we can start to assess where the damages are, start to really get a handle on that. So we started taking a look at that. In the meantime, the County Emergency Operations Center quickly became engulfed with a lot of GIS help, from a lot of the typical agencies. FEMA came in, USGS, the Army Corps, NOAA was there. They even had people from the Texas Division of Emergency Management Services, the New York City Fire Department's geospatial team, which is a really interesting team that I was not familiar with. But what happened was there started being a lot of parallel efforts happening, a lot of duplication in damage assessment collection, a little bit of confusion. And so the emergency manager one day reached out to the county GIS manager and said, hey, what we need is a single source in-house tool that will do a damage assessment for the entire county for all damage types, landslides, flooding, whatever it might be. Is that something you guys can provide to us? So Gene actually gave me a call one Sunday afternoon. My family and I were at our local airport packing pallets of supplies that were being flown into Western North Carolina. He said, I've got a request from the county emergency manager. We want a damage assessment tool. Is that something you can help me put together? I don't have the capacity. My team doesn't have the capacity to do that. I said, yes, we're on it. So what that resulted in then was a tool that we put together, an experience builder. We divided the county up into 650 1-square-mile grid cells. And the idea was we would take this great high-resolution post-event imagery, some of it was from NOAA, some of it was from Nearmap, and start to do just a heads-up visual assessment and start putting points on the map of where all the damage that we could see was located. Here's a zoom in of what some of that looks like there. So we had some different criteria. We're looking at like where bridges were damaged or destroyed, where structures were damaged or destroyed, and what was the damage type. Was it from flooding? Was it from landslides? And then, what was kind of unique about this is, this is a tool that's supporting, local county, GIS, and emergency management office, being hosted at a local university and being edited by people from NOAA. We had some close ties. Some of our folks had some close ties with the University of Georgia Geospatial Center. We had some grad students editing this. We had a great team of folks from the Timmons Group that were supporting the county. So, we had, multiple different organizations, editing, feature services and working on this tool that was being hosted at a university that's supporting, a local, county, municipality. So just kind of a unique collaboration there. Over the next couple of weeks, we went through all 650 grid cells and collected nearly 6,500 damage points. Again, landslides, flooding, whether it be structures or bridges, trees that were on houses that were visible in some of this imagery. And this dashboard, proved to be pretty useful. They were using this in regular briefings in the Emergency Operations Center. This was live, so as we were updating or as we were collecting data through the damage assessment tool, this dashboard was displaying live results. So that was a really useful product for them to have. As the weeks rolled on, the county officials began to realize, hey, we need to start thinking about all of the hazardous debris that's in our riverways. It was really dry. I mean, it was thankfully for really a month after Helene, there was virtually no rain in Asheville. But moving into the fall and winter seasons, they knew that, the potential of flooding was going to obviously come back. And so with all the debris that was in the riverways, they really wanted to start prioritizing removing as much of that as possible. So again, Gene Hume reached out to me again and said, hey, we need a similar tool just to focus on debris that's in the riverways. So we basically made a carbon copy, used the same imagery, changed the criteria. So here we're mapping things like vehicles and shipping containers and campers and mobile homes and all kinds of things that are in the river, so that they could start to prioritize with the Army Corps and with the National Guard, trying to remove as much of that as possible before it would dislodge in future flood events. So both of these tools continue to actually be used today. really powerful, data collection efforts that are still being used. Fast forward another couple of months, and unfortunately, we have new risks that are emerging as a result of Hurricane Helene, and that's just the amount of tree damage that we experienced in western North Carolina. So early estimates from the U.S. Forest Service and from the North Carolina Forest Service are over a 16-county area. If you're familiar with western North Carolina, roughly from Brevard, Transylvania County, all the way up to Ashe County, kind of a 16-county area there. They estimate that over 800,000 acres have significant downed trees or tree damage. That's an area that's larger than the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, so a lot of trees on the ground. In fact, in Mitchell County alone, that estimate is over 25% of the county has significant tree damage and downed trees. And this is why is this important? Well, we're coming into the fire season, and so I've been working with the local fire officials and forest rangers over the past couple of months, trying to figure out some tools that we can put together for them to help them prioritize where structures are more at risk as a result of Helene. So we've been doing some early estimates. We've come up with about 40,000 structures that are at a heightened risk of fire due to these downed trees. And unfortunately, this is going to be a problem for a long time. And North Carolina is no stranger to hurricanes. Most of those are along the coast, and we have big down tree, big wind events along the coast, and we'll have big blowdowns of these pine forests. But they're pine trees, they're softwoods, and within a couple of years, they kind of decay and rot and go away. But these oaks and hickories in the mountains, as the forest rangers have pointed out, they're going to be on the ground for 15 to 20 years. So this is going to be a problem for a very long time. There's issues of access. They're trying to understand how do we get into some of these areas, road closures, logging road closures. How do we get into some of these areas and begin to think about fighting some of these fires? We've already had fires. If you've seen in the news, we've already had a couple of big fires in western North Carolina. So this is a growing concern. Let's see, I guess I think my last slide didn't get in there, but that's okay. I just want to close with saying that, two things. First of all, if a major event like Helene is going to hit any state, there's no state better prepared than North Carolina from a geospatial perspective, from a data perspective, to be able to handle an event like this. Some of our meticulously curated and maintained statewide data sets that we have, whether it's the high resolution LiDAR elevation data, the imagery that's constantly reflown, the parcels data set, the structures, the floodplain data sets. These are some really important data sets that are useful in a time like this. And North Carolina is unique in having, a lot of these data sets, and has set the bar, for other states to follow. So those of you that might be new to the GIS community here in North Carolina, you're in a really data-rich environment, something that you don't find in a lot of other states. And then finally, I just want to say how important conferences like this are, particularly this conference. This collaboration that I just spent a few minutes describing was really made possible by, coming to events like this, networking, talking with others. I've been coming for 20 years. I've heard Tim Johnson say in every open plenary, and I heard Matt say it this morning, if you don't do anything else this week, talk to somebody you haven't seen in a while. It may be somebody that's, that does GIS in your own city or county, but we go back to home, we get busy, we work, and we don't really get to interact like we do at events like this. So it was really important, I know, for Gene and others in the city and the county to be able to reach out to people that they knew and could trust. A lot of times when you got people coming in from all over the country, you don't know who they are, you don't know what they're capable of, but in a major event like this, you really want to rely on somebody you know and trust. So you never know when the person sitting next to you today or in front of you or behind you, when you may need that person to help provide some support to you in a situation like this. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Again, my name is Sally Vaughn. I am the GIS Director in Person County, North Carolina. I sit in a building with the Environmental Health Department, the Planning and Zoning Department, and the Building Inspections Department. And I tell you this because it will become important during my presentation. I don't know if I have slides. I do not. You have to look at me. My involvement in this hurricane actually began in 2018. After Hurricane Florence, the GIS community realized that we had done a disservice to our members in the eastern part of the state. Some counties don't have GIS people at all. Some counties have one or two who, after 10 days of being in the EOC, were exhausted and needed relief. So we got together and created a group called the Working Group for Enhanced Emergency Response, WGEAR. Those representatives during Hurricane Helene, we began meeting on October the 1st, a couple of days after the storm hit, but when we were starting to finally receive communication from the western part of the state. That group includes representatives from the GICC, from DOT, DIT, DENR, and so on, as well as members of the local government committee. On October the 3rd, I was assigned to Madison County, North Carolina, and was briefed by North Carolina Emergency Management. The first thing I did was check FIMAN. If you do not know what FIMAN is, find out and look at it. I also checked Drive NC. This was shortly after I-40 had been reopened for travel. Realized that I was able to travel to Madison County and arrive in Marshall, where I had been assigned. The next thing I did was I went to NC1 Map and I downloaded all of the data. And I put it on a thumb drive and on Google Drive and on my laptop. I also visited the Madison County GIS website to see if I could determine who their contractor was. Is it Avinion? Is it Atlas? It was neither, unfortunately. I found their Open Data Hub and downloaded as much data as I possibly could from their Open Data Hub, and again, hid it in all those places. I did not know what I was going to be arriving to on scene, and I did not know if internet was available, so those copies were crucial for me. On my way to Madison County, there were many convoys of first responders. There were also a lot of people going to the mountains that maybe shouldn't have been. Beginning in about Alamance County, I'm coming from Durham, I started seeing recovery-related debris on the side of the road. Cases of water, bags of food, and clothes had fallen off vehicles and were all over the highway. Around Hickory, there was an accident where a UTV had fallen off a trailer and damaged several vehicles. Climbing up the grade at Black Mountain, 2 trucks with beds and trailers full of water, all the intent in the right place, had pulled over with engine trouble. Each incident required a response from an already overtaxed first responders and slowed the rest of us in getting to our destinations. That is the reason we closed I-40. So once I crested Black Mountain, the first thing I noticed was that the mountains were brown. The Blue Ridge Mountains were brown because the leaves had been removed from the trees and completely decimated the forests. I'm from the mountains, that touched me. I also noticed how much dust and mud there was. Saturday the 5th around noon, I arrived at the Emergency Operations Center and met with the county's only GIS person. She had been there for 14 months and was faced with this storm. A makeshift EOC had been set up inside the building shared by the Sheriff's Department and the jail. There were no maps in the EOC. There were no screens in the EOC. I was briefed by the county manager, who confirmed that all county staff were accounted for. The internet was dodgy. The EOC was running off of 2 Starlinks, which was not enough, but we were thankful to have those 2. The GIS office was actually located in a different part of Marshall that had internet, so I traveled there with the on-site GIS person. I was introduced to staff in that building who were the environmental health, planning and zoning, and building inspections people that I am used to. And I asked them about their homes, asked them about their families. I allowed them to share. For some, it was the first time they had spoken to someone outside of the area. Most still had their homes and their families were okay, but everyone knew someone who was still unaccounted for. Many had heard radio traffic during the storm, describing some of the most horrendous scenes you could imagine. The GIS person there is the daughter of a local fire chief, and the stories she shared with me were horrendous. Other people had family members who also had first responders who had had those experiences shared with them. County staff had been working 12-hour shifts since just after the storm. But because I was able to work for the GIS person, she was able to go to a church service that Sunday after I arrived and returned a very refreshed person. And if nothing else, that was my purpose in going. Early on, I identified the current state of search and rescue, damage assessment, and missing persons activities, and developed a plan to support their damage assessment efforts. When I arrived, staff were collecting damage assessment information in an Excel spreadsheet that had photos embedded within the sheet. Creative, but perhaps not the best use of Excel. That spreadsheet was being shared on OneDrive, and it quickly became problematic and eventually crashed. The on-site GIS person and I re-entered that information into the Survey 123 form, which then fed into the damage assessment app and dashboard that you will see this afternoon and tomorrow as well. I then compared some of the initial damage assessments to the flood zones and realized that the flooding had extended well beyond the floodplain and up into the tributaries of the French Broad. I buffered the floodplains and streams enough to capture nearby properties and cross-reference that with address information to develop a list of properties that should be visited for damage assessment. Ideally, this would have been based on elevation, but it needed to be done quickly. I trained the building inspectors and the planning and zoning staff on how to use a mobile phone. Survey 123, the camera on their phone, and provided them with paper field maps and assignments to keep them from overlapping their work. The staff were amazing. They took right to the new technology. They took right to some random stranger from outside of their county telling them what to do and how to do it. I was so impressed with them. And then we were able to have that information automatically feed into the dashboard, which I was then able to share with the county manager. After a day of damage assessment, staff indicated they were having a hard time with knowing what to assess. The rain had come and gone so quickly that many buildings were just simply gone. You can't do a damage assessment on a building if you don't know it was there. The buildings were carried away by floodwaters, and there was not even a remaining foundation to indicate where the building could have been. So again, I used our building footprint information provided by the wonderful people in this room to modify the maps being used in the Survey 123 and damage assessment application, connected it back to Survey 123, and by Monday morning, they had that information available in their mobile devices as they were doing damage assessment. Also by Monday, I took the damage assessment dashboard. I found a laptop that no one was using, plugged it into a monitor that no one was using in the EOC, and I showed those maps to those people in that EOC. They got up and stood around and looked at those screens like they'd never seen it before. I consider that a win in my career, that I was able to share that spatial information with people who are making decisions on the ground. Also, I'd like to mention that help with any and all of these applications that I'm mentioning today was never more than a phone call or a text message away, in large part to members of the GICC. We did choose to print large maps daily and hang them on the wall. So that way people could once again stand around and view things. It became apparent that many people in Madison County's own staff had never taken the time to just look at a map of their county. So I just printed one with the fire districts on it to let people look at and enjoy. I was proud to help them think spatially about their community. The next several days honestly were a blur. I continued to work with field staff on damage assessment changes and provided updated information to the county manager during briefings. I assisted other volunteers in locating water and sewer assets in hot springs, identified properties that could be used for the debris removal. I even spoke with the 911 vendor and got their maps updated. We looked at the road closure information provided in Drive NC and evaluated those for the impacts on the school bus routing system that they were attempting to reopen school a week later. And then I turned over my notes and a big mess to Josh Norwood of Pender County and Brian Cracha from Avignon, who followed me up there. This was a very different storm from any I've experienced or been involved in. For coastal storms, the water comes and it stays. The long-term flooding makes areas completely inaccessible or only accessible by boat. But when the water recedes down east, most buildings and infrastructure are left intact, even if they are damaged. That was not the case with Hurricane Helene. The sheer velocity of the water completely removed buildings, infrastructure, bridges, rail lines, culverts, you name it, and any other sign of human activity. The French Broad River itself changed its own course. People were left completely cut off from roads, electrical networks, communications networks. As an example of that, the 911 center in Madison County only got phone service back in late November, almost 60 days after the event. But looking around from the hilltop at the Madison County Emergency Operations Center, you couldn't really tell much was going on, except for an occasional helicopter or military convoy. It was very normal looking in Marshall. I found that difference to be very hard to understand and to come to terms with. I intentionally did not view and go to the areas that were destroyed to protect myself from that information. Another difference from previous storms was ArcGIS Online. What a wonderful godsend that has been. I did have some challenges remembering what data source went with what login, but we were eventually able to overcome that, and I could pull in information as it was being presented and collected to us. And the imagery certainly was part of that. I had a lot of time for reflection during this deployment, and I learned a lot about myself. Looking back, I probably should have gone as part of a team. I won't go alone again. The experience really reiterated to me that we have some of the best GIS people, applications, and skill sets in this United States. But none of it is any use to people on the ground if they aren't aware of it. We have got to get to these little places and get them at least aware so they know they have someone they can call. I hope my time helped the people of Madison County in some way, and I will absolutely never forget my experience with those people. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Watts. I'm the city manager. No, I'm not. I'm the GIS manager. I just got a promotion. I do not want. I'm going to demote myself to GIS manager of the city of Asheville. As you can tell, I'm nervous. So if anyone is speaking in the next 2 days and is nervous, don't worry. I'll do everything wrong, so you guys will look great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm kind of just blown away by the three folks that just presented. This has been, we're still going through it, even though it's been months and months. It's still just pumping through our veins right now. I'd really like to share my team's part in the response, the beginning of the recovery. It's going to be a while. The tools that we created amongst the complete chaos, and I do want to share my gratitude for the folks from North Carolina GIS and beyond. So I'm going to start with what it was like. So much rain. This is weeks before the event. We were getting off and on heavy rains for about 2 weeks leading up to the storm. The ground was so saturated. It was nothing I've ever seen. Schools were canceled, starting Thursday, September 26th. Schools were canceled, just so much rain. Childcare canceled. We had an IT division manager briefing that afternoon where we were given kind of a breakdown from our fire department. If you see in this report, our area, the Blue Ridge flooding, if you see one pink box, then you're supposed to be very worried. The fact that we were 4 pink boxes was really, really scary. So we knew this was going to be big, but we did not know how big. The city's EOC opened that afternoon. Our team, our GIS team, it's a team of 4, but we do have some folks scattered through the city, started getting requests. Our first request from the fire department was all the addresses in the 100 and 500 year flood zone, and public safety actually took those addresses and started going door to door evacuating people. We started making flood maps, of course, into the night. We did analysis for high risk, for flood, for landslide with NCMAC data that we have. And our community engagement folks were working with neighborhood organizations from the higher vulnerable neighborhoods. It rained so hard. I couldn't sleep. I kept looking out the window and just seeing the rain in the street light. I just will never forget, and just like praying that it would stop. But it didn't. That night we just kept getting those mandatory evacuation buzzers on our phones. Those folks that I know there's folks here that were getting that are from the area. It was terrifying. Luckily, I live on a hill and we were okay. But just that constant buzzing, just you're so worried for your community. Around 6 o'clock that morning on Friday, the 27th, I got a message from my boss that the EOC needed the modeling for a potential dam breach at North Fork Reservoir, which is our largest reservoir. They had a paper copy on a PDF from the consultant from years ago, but that was not super helpful for them to be able to look at who would be affected. So at 6 o'clock in the morning with like shaky internet and shaky power, I started working on that from my house, and I was shaking, maybe not as much as I am right now, but close. Just looking at all of those addresses, all of those residential, like the homes, the businesses, and everyone who could be affected if the dam were to breach, which they did not, thankfully. But we didn't know that at that time. So I sent that back, and my director called me just checking in. They really needed it. And I asked her, do you need me at the EOC? And she said, yes. So I got in the car. I grabbed my peanut butter and jelly. I got in the car, and I drove through the storm to our EOC. Trees were down. It was really hard to get there. I kept having to turn around. It was raining so hard. There were power lines down, driving under. I don't know why I was ducking, but you do that. Turning around, just trying to make my way to the EOC. It was really, really scary. Once I got there, it was a tough day. Those traumatic rescues were happening. We're saving people with boats. The public works team that was out chainsawing those downed trees, trying to open the roads so that public safety could get to the people, were grabbing people and rescuing people in their sanitation trucks, like whatever they had out there, which was amazing. But as this was happening, our infrastructure was crashing. I think I was talking to a colleague this morning about like everything that could go wrong just kept going wrong. Power was out. The cell phone towers came down. Our water utility, our big 36-inch main line was taken out, and then in the redundant line that was built after the 2004 storm was also washed out. So the last phone call I had on my cell phone was to my husband, like, fill the bathtub, tell everyone. And he did. That bathtub full of water did not last us the 3 weeks that we didn't have running water, though. One thing that I did, so our EOC did have a generator, and we had Starlink, so we were online. But once the water was gone, there was no bathrooms, there were no showers, so got to know your coworkers very well. But our GIS was up. We built a web GIS about a year before, so we were completely in the cloud, and we were up, and that felt amazing. We were up Saturday, but on Sunday, we had a direct connect line for AWS in Virginia, and it was washed out like south of Atlanta. So we were down for a little bit, but then they fixed it. We were back up, which was great, and we were working. After this is just, I think I started this Wednesday or Thursday. Started tracking as work orders or requests were coming in, just honestly so that there wasn't duplication of requests. So I know that in the chaos and kind of all the time, people come at you from all over the place wanting the same thing. So it's just kind of get everything I could out there. And we used this, I think, through almost November. We were in the EOC for the first, I think, 5 days of the storm, and then moved to City Hall, where there were generators and porta potties, which were great. We get to know your coworkers real well while you're all waiting for the porta potty. So we were using this until, I think, Thanksgiving, when drinking water was back and they officially stopped the EOC. Our focus eventually went from response, mapping missing people, unfortunately human remains, search and rescue dashboards, to distribution of drinking water, the wonderful trucks that came up the hill or came up the mountains to us and flown in from the airport, supplies. We used GIS to prioritize the most vulnerable people first. We were coordinating with outside agencies. The outside agencies showed up either remotely and in person, and they knocked it out of the park. It was incredible to work with them. And I want to call out the North Carolina Department of Emergency Management. Alan and Daniel, if you're here, thank you. Greg, too. You called me and said, what data do you need? It wasn't just like, what can we do to help? It was like, what do you need? What do you have? What can we help you get? This community is incredible. All of this was happening while our home lives were also crazy. This is a shot of the EOC. It's beautiful, it's brand new, but it had a Starlink, and we had Starlinks eventually before the SATCOM trucks came in to provide cell service. We had at our fire stations and some of our libraries, and they were just swarmed with people. And it was amazing, like if someone was getting through on their phone, people would have them like text or call their people. So just trying to relay that we're okay. We had no idea like what was happening, like all of what was happening. We knew snippets. So like having a little bit of a link to the outside world was incredible for people. Unfortunately, at the EOC, everyone using our Starlink started kicking us off Wi-Fi, so we eventually had to turn that one off, which felt bad for everyone, but we were going kind of old school, like leaving notes on people's doors, just checking. Folks were like mountain biking to rural places to like look for people and just relay information that people were okay. There was no power, there was no stoplights, there was no gas, there was no food potentially, no drinking water, no flushing water, and we were lucky. We had little to no damage. We live on a hill. Not having running water was challenging. We have a really big hot water heater because I like a hot shower. And we were emptying it into buckets and carrying it upstairs to use for flushing. I took my baby to my director's house. She has a well, and so I could give him a bath. Most of the stores and gas stations weren't open. If there were a couple that were, and they were cash only. We were rationing at our house like peanut butter and tortillas, which is delicious. When there's no power or water, cooking is hard. We were boiling drinking water on the grill. People started evacuating. People started going out, and help started coming in. One of my team members went to Charlotte, went home, and he got supplies and brought them back. He brought me back a case of beer. I can't tell you how nice that was. I would give him a raise if we had the funds. The community was incredible. Our GIS community reached out and showed up. This is just, the utility trucks were rolling into town, and people were like clapping and screaming, and it was like a parade. And then this is a picture of our City Hall parking lot, and it was just emergency vehicles from all over the country. We had utility trucks, I know, from Canada, from Maine, where I'm from, because my dad told me every day once we had cell. Like counties that you all are from were there. Our West Asheville, where I live, our fire department truck was a City of Raleigh truck running our neighborhood. And there was a fire down the street from us. And when the water is out, there's no hydrants. So they had 3 trucks there just using the water that they had from the river in their trucks. It was just incredible. I ended up evacing after about a week. I went up to Maine, and my parents watched my son while I worked from my childhood bedroom, which is a weird place to take a call from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, surrounded by your Dave Matthews CD towers. But it was a weird time. I'm gonna quick just blow through. I know we're running low on time. Some of what we did. I'm really proud of. We had our damage assessment tool for FEMA up and running Sunday, and they were out Monday doing assessments. We have our incredible data inventory that we keep adding. They're still using for recovery. We had dashboards that we're using, GIS tools, and I really love this one. This is a Survey 123 for city infrastructure that was damaged that we are trying to get reimbursements for. We have a job that a Survey 123, they go out in the field and collect incredible amount of damage, and then we automate it into a template that goes directly to the FEMA reporting. So it's automated, which is saving so much time. So we're using GIS and automation to save time, but also to hopefully get that reimbursement, which we need. And then that same Survey 123, we just have a dashboard. It's still in progress. They're still collecting the information. Real quick, just what we did that was really helpful was tracking everything. We started tracking, that tracking sheet I showed. It was really important at the time, but also afterwards we could prove everything we did. And so we could get reimbursed for our work, our GIS work. We set up disaster response with Esri. They were amazing. They didn't do credits costs, they gave us users. They built a hub site for us. Our partners, working with FEMA, NCDOT, utilities, Department of Public Safety, Emergency Management, NEMAC, Buncombe County, and more. We really struggled with, road closures and communications, so we're working on that for the future. I just also want to close with how appreciative I am of all of you. Our Asheville GIS team, they are so tired, but they are so committed to GIS, and I'm so grateful for them. And we were love-bombed by, with offers to help, and we took people up on it, and we are so grateful. And the community, that I lived in, they helped each other out. Every neighborhood was full of people checking out, helping each other, making sure people had water, making sure people had food. Someone gave us half a pizza, and I almost cried. It was really good. I love pizza. I really do hope this never happens again. But I will offer, if something similar is happening to your community, to please reach out, call me, and I will drop everything and try to help you. So thanks again to everyone, and thanks for having us and taking the time for Helene.
Thank you to all four of you. Very impactful. And Kristen, you've set the bar high, so you did great. And don't be surprised if you're called on again to speak. So excellent. And thank you all. You all did excellent. Let's give our panelists another round of applause. Just a couple of quick items before we dismiss for lunch. As we wrap up this morning, I encourage you, there will be a survey link sent to you for feedback after the conference concludes. So I encourage you to take some time, fill out that survey, be honest, and we definitely welcome your candid feedback. That helps us from conference to conference to know where we can grow and where we can improve, and also where things should stay the same. So thank you for that. And finally, I just want to reiterate, I've heard this a lot this morning, but I do want to say again, thank you. Thank you to each of you, each and every one of you in this room, and to all the people that are back at the office holding things down and keeping things going while we're here. I appreciate each and every one of you and what you do for all North Carolinians and beyond. It does not go unnoticed, even though many in the room, you may prefer to stay behind the desktop or behind the scenes. This week, I hope you feel seen and I hope you feel appreciated. And I just want you to know that I have personally gratitude towards all of you, and thank you so much for all that you do for this community. You've heard that this morning. You've seen what impact you have, even if it's just we're maintaining address data, we're maintaining road center lines, we're doing our day-to-day work. We may not see the impact. Just know there is an impact. You have an impact. You've made an impact. You will continue to make an impact. So again, thank you very much. With that said, we are going to dismiss. Lunch will be served again in the hall. There are 3 tables. They are double-sided, so please line up on both sides of those tables. Take some time, talk to somebody, meet someone new, sit with someone new, and I hope you all have a great, great conference. Thank you for being here.